Hey everybody, welcome to our downtown studios. This is Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Ramdeen. He is Robin Black. A couple of news and notes to take care of. Matt Brown out of his fight, suffering an injury again, leading up to this fight with Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum out as well. Daniel Cormier extending his UFC contract by 8 fights. But I want to focus on the welterweight division. An interesting time right now. We got this tremendous battle between Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler coming up in the future. Rory McDonald is looking like he's going to return to the cage anytime now. Tyron Woodley's ready to go. Johnny Hendricks, we're still trying to figure out, does he go up to 185 pounds? Was it really the deer meat? Kelvin Gastelum, one of the future stars of the welterweight division. I say one of the future stars, but it seems like he's really on the rise right now. You throw into Damian Maia into the mix, and is George St. Pierre coming back? A good time for 170 pounds.
It is, and Robbie Lawler definitely established himself as the man. And when George left, we had discussion, I think a lot of people had discussion about the parity that was up there, how close in skill, and that there would be a lot of winning and moving and changing. Hendricks came in, beat Lawler. Then Lawler went in, beat Hendricks, and beat Rory in one of the greatest fights you're ever going to see. He's the man to beat, not only because he's the champion, but each time he wins, he's setting new goals and achieving them in his own performance, in what he's capable of. He's still young, too, which is scary. I want to see how that lip heals. That's going to look pretty crazy. That's going to be a scar he carries around for the rest of his life, looks in the mirror and goes, oh, yeah, I was in one of the best fights ever.
Robbie Lawler, he's one of these fighters, I think if you've been following mixed martial arts for any length of time, he's kind of your guy. You see that he's come up through a different era of mixed martial arts when I don't think it was even called mixed martial arts. It was no holds barred, I think, at that point. Making his way from the old school team of the Militich Academy, working with Matt Hughes, you know, fighting all over the world in different organizations, kind of spreading that web out there, trying to build the sport up. And he is where he is right now. Who do you think that, when you look at anybody else at the 170-pound division, who is the closest to being able to rival Robbie Lawler? Is it Carlos Condit? Because you look at the skill set, yes, but does he have the power? Does he have all these things that he needs to hurt Robbie Lawler?
What's great about Carlos Condit is he can quietly set himself up on a rooftop and just kind of sharpen that thing and adjust the thing and check the wind and then assassinate you. He has that ability. He can do it to anybody. He can absolutely do it to Robbie Lawler. You know, we have a lot of discussion, and I think it's a common discussion in the fight game. You know, who deserves what thing? What's the rankings? This guy didn't beat that guy. Why is he listen, none of that is really...
Well, people are bitching about this because they look at Carlos Condit losing to Tyron Woodley and losing to Johnny Hendricks, and he gets to leapfrog those guys to face off with Robbie Lawler. So I can understand the argument when it comes to rankings, because these rankings things they're thrown into the fans' faces, so to speak. But if you're just looking at the pure combat that's going to happen inside of the cage, for my money, there are very few fights that are going to be able to rival the type of skill that we're going to see from Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler. Two tough individuals that have dealt with pain in the past, and that their skill, their abilities in mixed martial arts are amongst the highest in the game.
Yeah, and it's a crazy technical battle. Lawler, even though he really has improved in his own mind and the way he performs and what he can do in battle, still has that really powerful right hook, that straight left. It's advanced fundamentals done to the 99th degree. Carlos Condit is like swords. You know, everything slices in, knees slice up, elbows slice over top. You know, everything moves in slicing manners. It's super cool the way you're going to see that sort of curved striking against that linear striking too. That'll be phenomenal. But what is it to deserve a title shot? I mean, what is a title shot? Why do we even use that term? Ultimately, guys are fighting, and one day they fight for the belt. We give it this extensive meaning because for many years we've done that. But what is a champion? Guys have won, people have won a belt, cried, held it up, and been deemed the champion thousands and thousands and thousands of times in combat sports over the last 100 years. It doesn't mean what it meant a long time ago. What matters is being the man right now. The belt looks cool, but is it really a thing? The rankings, it's easy to juggle everything, but what does it really mean? Ultimately, the man is the guy after 25 minutes who stands up, and Robbie Lawler is the fucking man.
I think when you talk about it, though, it depends on who's holding the title, because we were having this conversation about Daniel Cormier and how his last pay-per-view with Alexander Gustafsson selling less than 300,000 pay-per-view buys. It's because I think most people recognize that Jon Jones is the man, and that in order for you to get that acclaim, you have to topple the guy at the top of the mountain. And people did not see that from Daniel Cormier. Same with Johnny Hendricks. Wasn't able to beat George St. Pierre, who was one of the kings of the pay-per-view market, so to speak. So I think that's what it comes down to. These guys, in order for them to become stars, and when people look at the titles, they're looking at the riches with it.
Yeah.
And in order to get those riches, you have to get the following. It's like the Blue Jays here in Toronto. You look through the regular season, sure, there were some people tuning in, but as soon as you attach champions to the Toronto Blue Jays, the venue is full and everybody is making money, and if you become a champion, you make even more money.
Yeah, I think because we've assigned so much value to that ritual, that ceremony of Dana putting the belt on you, of the thing, of crying, of saying how you feel, and we've assigned so much value to that ritualistic ceremony that we need to see it. And we didn't see Cormier to have that ceremony. We didn't see that moment in time that we all go, oh yeah, that he beat the man. And even though George retired after a very close fight that many thought that Hendricks won, I didn't believe that. I thought George won round 1, which was the key round. But even though he retired and a new guy came in for a vacant belt, we still never saw that big ceremony where the crown is lifted off one and put on another. That means something to people. It doesn't need to. We can look at the value of pure beauty of combat in and of itself, but if there is a value, and there has been one assigned for many years.
The 170-pound division will figure itself out over the next 16 months or so. Nick Diaz coming back in 2016, him versus Robbie Lawler. The rematch. There's so many great fights for Nick Diaz, as well as the rest of the 170-pound division. Coming up this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, November 7th, FN is getting you ready for Dan Henderson, Vitor Belfort 3 with a 1-hour preview show. And then keep it locked here at 8 p.m. for our prelims, headlined by Gleison Tebow and Abel Trujillo.